Fun facts, the TSL top 8, the TSL playoffs are also going to be offline. They're also going to be at an offline event, I believe at the TL headquarters, at the boot camp that they have set up in Europe, in Norway, if I'm not mistaken. Norway or Netherlands? I keep confusing them. But enough about that, because we are here in our final series, in our final PvP, and spawning in the top right hand corner of Waterfall ESL, we have the Canadian Protoss player representing Team Super. It is TriGGeR. And spawning in the bottom left hand corner of Waterfall ESL, we have the American Protoss representing Alpha X. I think maybe still in Korea, I believe still in the land of South Korea. It is Astrea. Maybe back in America, I'm not 100% certain on that. If you know in the chat, let us know. Let us know. Oh my god, as Astrea. Oh, I am shooketh. He goes for a Nexus first. Who needs gate expands when you can just expand? Ay. Again, I was talking, this is why I love these two. Like, they just throw anything at each other. They have no fear. They are fearless when sometimes they should be fearful. Astrea goes for a Nexus first against TriGGeR. Madman. Absolute madman. Meanwhile, across the map, TriGGeR is going for a gate expand, or at least it looks to be. No, he goes for a second gateway. TriGGeR wants to be aggressive. TriGGeR wants to punish Astrea right now. His probe across the map is throwing down a pylon. He is not going to expand. No, he wants to say, Astrea, you think you could do this against me? You think you can Nexus first against me? Do you know who I am? I'm the best Protoss player in all of goddamn Canada. Ay, let's go. Robo is thrown down. We see a proxy Robo. Immortals are going to be coming out here. Gateways are done. Stalkers and Zealots are coming across the map. Astrea is scouting with his probe. He knows something is wrong. Something is amiss. He still has a probe in the main base of TriGGeR. He knows that, again, there is no Nexus. That money has to be invested somewhere. The question is, where? And now Astrea knows, because Astrea did stumble upon that proxy. He sees the pylon, he sees the Robo, he knows what's happening, he knows how aggressive TriGGeR is going to be, and we'll see if he can defend. As he chronos out his first wave of Stalkers. Astrea even has eyes on top of all of this. The high ground is too good. And Astrea is even going for a forge. She's going to be throwing down cannons. I kind of like this response. We'll see if it's going to be good enough. There we go. Shield battery on the way as well. We do see that Astrea shoots first, as he did have the high ground. Oh, this Zealot is going to be kited against, and it's only going to deal shield damage. Oh boy. So a good start so far here from Astrea. Oh, he's going to try and focus on the pylon from the high ground. He can reach. Wow, and TriGGeR has to respond. He has to go the long way around. Is it too late? Is this over? The pylon is dead. It's 100% dead, mate. We do see the TriGGeR. He's trying to break into the main base. He's trying to focus down the shield battery as best he can. The pylon goes down. We see a recall back home. Aye, boys are being pulled. Astrea trying his best to hold on here. A fourth Stalker comes out. Oh. Forces the shield to be activated here of TriGGeR. Meanwhile, TriGGeR did have a probe here. He throws down a second pylon. He's still able to keep all of this powered. The show must go on. Meanwhile, cannons are on the way here for Astrea. They're not going to finish though. Again, the Immortal makes short work of these cannons. Overcharge is popped. Immortal being forced all the way back. Cannon does survive just barely. And ooh, TriGGeR can go straight into the main. I love this. We have cannons, we have shield batteries all being set up here at the natural base, but it doesn't even matter because TriGGeR bypasses all of it. And this could be a game-winning move here. We have Adepts on the way as well, and the Adepts are going to help deal with all of these workers, all of these probes. The Immortal focus firing as many of these Stalkers as possible. And TriGGeR is breaking through. Mate, you think you can Nexus first against me? Nah, mate, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna work. Shield battery goes down. Zero stack defense here in the main base to help out the main army of Astrea. He's losing more units left and right. We have another warp in into the main, and it's gonna be too much, mate. We see him rotate down towards the southern side of the map, towards the natural base. There's one Artosis pylon keeping everything alive, but it's not even coming into play. Ah! The War Prism Micro is just too damn good. Astrea is losing too much. Again, just a little bit too greedy, a little bit too cheeky. Overcharge is popped, the second overcharge here of the defense, but it's not going to be enough. The Immortal is immortal. It has survived throughout this entire game. It just will not die. GG gets called and TriGGeR takes game number 1. Jesus. Wow. Again, I am just shooketh. I can't believe Astrea tried to do that on Waterfall. Not just like it isn't just about the fact that he tried to go for a Nexus first. It's the fact that he went Nexus first on the shortest rush distance map in the map pool, right? He's crazy. He is insane. And with that, TriGGeR takes the lead in the series, but it's a best of 5, still plenty more games to go. They have no fear, they should both play random. I see no clone in the chat. I need those toys, except for the duck. Don't need the duck. What do you mean? The duck is the most important part. Ah, hold on. Where's my duck? Where is my duck? Ah. Beautiful. Oh, you can't see it. Ah, you can barely see it. It's being caught by the green screen because it's yellow. Shaking my head. But here we go. We are continuing on in our series and spawning in the top right-hand corner of Data C, or the center right-hand corner of Data C. We have the player who is currently leading this series, representing Team Super, hailing from the land of Canada. It is TriGGeR. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Data C ESL, we have the American Protoss player representing Alpha X. Currently down in the series, this time not going for a Nexus first. It is Astrea. As we do see both players scouting each other. Ooh, no head booth there, as we do see them mineral walk past. And now we see a much more standard opener here. Gate expand looking to be. You love to see it. No early Nexus, no disrespect from either one of these players. Oh. But yeah, it's really cool to see TriGGeR with that little bit of a lead here in this series, and he's gonna need it. Astrea is a terrifying opponent. We also got notified by Slow Run. Apparently, Astrea is still in Valencia. Ooh, because a lot of players have COVID. Apparently, Astrea is still there in Europe. Shaking my head, shaking my head. Love it. Steel Mold in the chat. First rule of PvP: first player to build a natural loses the. It's what Yahoo and I say often. In PvP, you expand, you die, mate. It's a really scary thing expanding in PvP. Not gonna lie, because your opponent, instead of using 400 minerals on an expansion, they can just throw down more gates and they can just push you. You know, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. But so far, both players just being as annoying as possible, forcing the Zealots out for both players as well, just laying that natural base. And TriGGeR, he's the first to fold. He throws down a Stargate in his main. Meanwhile, Astrea, he wants the Nexus. So TriGGeR delays his base for faster tech. Meanwhile, Astrea delays his tech for a faster base instead. So we do see both players diverge a little bit in their overall plans. Astrea is still going for a Stargate, but of course much later compared to that of TriGGeR. And Astrea also scouts the tech. The probe in the main base was able to survive long enough to sneak on in, and he sees everything. He knows that he has to prepare for an Oracle. Quickly checking the vision of TriGGeR, did he? No, he saw the Nexus being thrown down, so he knows that the Stargate is going to be delayed. He knows that he doesn't have to worry about a Phoenix or anything like that, and he can just zoom across the map. Meanwhile, Astrea trying to find, you know, some value here with his Zealot after he was forced to make it, going across the map. And I kind of like this Phoenix first. I don't know if the Phoenix is going to come out in time. He is chronoing it out and he is zooming across the map. Yeah, I think it will be coming out in time. Can he intercept the Oracle though? Oh, that is the question. As the Phoenix is going to be moving out and the Oracle moves in. Phoenix really out of position actually. Uh-oh. Thankfully for Astrea, 0 probes here at the natural. I spoke too soon! Oof. There were 0 probes at the natural. Oh, and the Phoenix does come back home in time. TriGGeR, not going to find any damage here with this Oracle. Forced to recall, forced to come all the way back home. But at least he keeps the Oracle alive, so there's still a chance that he can avoid that Phoenix and still, you know, deal some damage. Oh, best of luck, Oracle, best of luck. This time, no recall can save you. And, oh, interesting move. Astrea opens up with the Twilight Council, goes Blink, but immediately throws down the Dark Shrine. Oh boy. A little bit of a risky move here, but it can be a very potent move. Thankfully for TriGGeR, TriGGeR after the Twilight Council goes straight into a Robo as well. I know some players like to delay these, especially after a Stargate opener, just because we're already using so much gas in Oracles. But no, TriGGeR is playing the safe and he will have access to that detection. Oh boy. Meanwhile, TriGGeR doesn't want to take a chance with his Oracle. He will turn around. He will come back home instead. I believe TriGGeR did scout that proxy pylon. Only one of them, as the second one is being set up here for Astrea as well. And he needs those proxies because the Dark Shrine is about to finish. And TriGGeR hasn't seen... Oh, no, sorry. He was able to scout this earlier with a hallucination. Ah, very well done. I don't know if you heard it there, but there we go. Observer is now out. We have plenty of detection. He's moving out, and as the DTs get morphed in, TriGGeR has plenty to deal with it. So even though TriGGeR's Oracle hasn't dealt any economic damage, you could argue that it's okay because Astrea's DTs haven't done anything either. They're still alive though, that's the worrisome thing. Like TriGGeR still just kind of chilling here, still Chilean, waiting for any kind of DT to rock up. Both players expanding, going for their third bases. There we go. TriGGeR moves forward. He blinks on forward, does get 1 kill on the DT, but the second one sneaks around. Oh, does TriGGeR see? It looks like, oh, he does not. The DT does get into the natural base, and it does force some lost mining time, but only lost mining time. So yeah, we're in a really interesting place. What I will say is that despite the fact that like certain tech hasn't really done much damage for either player, Astrea is well ahead in the worker count, surprisingly ahead. Oof. Here we go. As TriGGeR is moving out across the map, he does have the army lead. Bear that in mind. We do see 14 Stalkers to the 11 of Astrea, but Astrea, of course, can warp in defensively. We have a shield battery as well. We have the defender's advantage. He's going to be okay as this fight is about to commence. A massive shout out to Games Kingdom. Gustavo, the Brazilian caster, thank you so much for the raid. As TriGGeR blinks on forward, he dives on top of so many of these Stalkers. The shield battery is not ready. It gets focused down. Overcharge is not going to be a thing. And now probes are falling left and right. To be fair, Astrea can afford to lose these workers. That's far ahead he was in the economy in the probe count. Can't lose too many though. And with this Warp Prism, TriGGeR, he's reinforcing across ramp. He's going to keep on going. Meanwhile, back at home, a DT is wreaking havoc at the third base, but TriGGeR didn't even have it saturated. Oh, so far it hasn't really done too much. TriGGeR is trying to break through here, wants to maybe get a kill on this third base. So far trading decently well with the Stalkers of Astrea, but Astrea now has a little bit too much momentum with the defender's advantage. His numbers are too high. DT sneaks into the main. And now with the Immortal, Astrea is going to have enough to defend. TriGGeR does have a bit of a probe lead, but not for much longer because no, probes are falling left and right. Ah! TriGGeR gets defended, he's forced all the way back home, and he's still losing so much here as well in the main base. He has detection, but he just doesn't have the firepower. He was warping in offensively across the map, not defensively. Ugh, and even more kills. I'm afraid to look, but this one DT has 12 probe kills. 13! Oh my god. War Prism even gets sniped after all said and done. Astrea is the one with the momentum. Stalker counts are relatively even. The difference is Astrea has an immortal. Has to be careful not to overextend, because that immortal that we were talking about gets focused down immediately by TriGGeR. Again, taking a great fight, all things considered. And forces Astrea back. And now we have to take stock a little bit. We do have +1 melee on the way here, +1 attack on the way for Astrea. So there's going to be a moment here soon where Astrea's Stalkers will have a pretty massive advantage. We do not have a Forge at all for TriGGeR, but he's making up for that with Immortals, with Charge. And now, after an intense couple of minutes, both players are calming down a little bit. They're expanding. 4th base is on the way as well. We can clamp down. Ooh, meanwhile, the wall is not a wall. A depth slip into the natural base. A couple more probes. Getting focused down. Oh my god. 5? 6? No, okay. Only 5. I say only 5, but again, in a mirror matchup, every probe counts. And Astrea doesn't just have the advantage with +1, but even working towards Templar Archives, going to be working towards Archons. Forge finally gets thrown down for TriGGeR, but this is so late in comparison. The Forge starts as +2 starts for Astrea. That's crazy. It's actually crazy. Ugh. TriGGeR can make up for it with a better economy. You know, the 4th bases are going to finish up at around the same time for both players. TriGGeR does have an 8-worker lead, which is nice. It does help. And it's still a little bit too early, too soon for either player to really push out. I say that. We do have a War Prism on the way, which does signify that Astrea wants to be aggressive. He wants to move out, whether it's to harass in the main base or go for a strong frontal push at the 3rd. We'll see if he can get it done. He has to be careful because the War Prism is actually rallied right over the Stalkers of TriGGeR. Oh boy. There we go. The Archons reveal themselves. Prism is on the way. Ooh, is rallied to the main army though. Is safe and sound. Meanwhile, back at home, TriGGeR working on his own Archons. And yeah, things are just calming down here. Like, I don't know, like, even with +2, I don't know if Astrea can push up this ramp. Like, pushing up ramps are so difficult to do here in StarCraft, even if you have an upgrade advantage, even if you have a numbers advantage. But we'll see if he can get up. Oh, TriGGeR a little bit out of position. Oh, but Astrea doesn't go for it. He doesn't dive. He doesn't need to, because instead he goes in with a War Prism. Forces a recall as well. Recall of an observer, not so much of the army. Astrea perks in just in case. He's like, yo, what did you recall exactly? Okay. Your main army is still here at your 3rd base. At least I still got 6 probe kills. It's okay. It's okay. And Astrea is the first player to tech up even further. He was the first one to go for a Templar Archives, and he's also the first to go for a Robotics Bay. He wants his Disruptors. Wants them so bad. +3 is on the way as well. +1 only just to finishing for TriGGeR. So Astrea he's just done a really good job at just continuing to stay on top of his tech and his upgrades. It's been really impressive to see. Not just that, but also it's just really his macro overall. You know, he's getting his 4th base up and running. He's getting his 5th on the way as well. He isn't overextending. He's being very careful with his army movement, focusing more on just poking, prodding, and harassing after he distracts the army. Very careful play. And it has really paid off for him, to be honest. But is it going to be enough? Astrea's army, I don't know how I feel about it. We have a lot of Zealots. We have 31 Zealots for Astrea and 2 Archons, as opposed to the 5 Archons of TriGGeR. That's why I do think he's going to be okay against that kind of mass Zealot composition. But what about the Disruptor? Because that could still change everything. There we go, as TriGGeR does dive into the 4th base. We do see that the Archons are doing so much damage to those Zealots. Nova goes off and does find a juicy connection on top of so many of those Stalkers. And that may just be all that Astrea needs. We do have a warp in of Zealots behind this. The Zealots are having a hard time getting past the army. Another Nova goes off, connecting with the Archons. And in the end, TriGGeR is still breaking on through. I was really worried about all those Zealots. Again, these Archons, they didn't die. One Archon has fallen this game. They made short work of all those Zealots, and Astrea is struggling a little bit. He makes up for it though in all these disruptors. It's always hard to count them out. Love them or hate them, they are good at what they do. Maybe too good, some would say. But we'll see. Here we go. The army trying to rotate around towards the 5th base, or now 4th base technically, of Astrea. Ooh. Juicy connection does get off. Does connect with 2 of those Stalkers and a Zealot. TriGGeR trying to get into his own robotics bay, trying to get into his own disruptors. But it's gonna take so long for that to happen. Not like this. Nova's connecting as well with the Zealot. Oh my god. Ugh. Nice hot pick up there by TriGGeR. The disruptors are exposing themselves, so one of them does get picked off. But we still have far more disruptors that came from Phoenix. Will CC one of them. That was a very, very close pickup. TriGGeR barely managed to escape relatively unscathed. But it's so scary fighting against so many disruptors when you don't have your own. It's still possible, but it's difficult. It's scary. I'm scared. TriGGeR rotating around here towards the left-hand side. This base is not going to finish. Never going to finish. Astrea wasn't able to keep up. He didn't know where the army was, so he's going to take that much longer to respond. Oh, really struggling with his army movements. There we go. We see it cancelled. And TriGGeR was able to dance long enough with Astrea where now he has his own disruptors. TriGGeR is now maxed as well. Astrea struggling to really identify what it is he needs, and there we go. I was like, what is he gonna warp in? Archons, mate, Archons. It's really what we've been missing here. I wouldn't mind more Blink Stalkers either. +3 is done. You see TriGGeR rotating around towards the bottom right hand side of the map. He's going to be able to find a base. Astrea not too far behind him. He has a choice. He could go towards a 3rd or try and surround the army. Uh-oh. There you go. He does see where the main army is. Disruptors are catching TriGGeR in a bit of a corner here. Oh. As he gets zoned away, and I mean, Astrea has the high ground. There's no way that TriGGeR pushes up into this. Like, there are just so many disruptors. Oh my god, and the Novas go off one after the other. They're too good. 3 Novas go off. TriGGeR cannot push up. He cannot save his base. He has to give it up. I would have loved to have seen like a base trade instead, but no, he's still committed. He's still trying to fight. How? Questionable engagements here by TriGGeR. He's going to lose everything. The Novas go off one after the other, and TriGGeR, he doesn't just lose the Nexus, he loses his army. GG gets called, and Astrea ties up the series 1-1. Oh. GG again. As TriGGeR just getting completely out of position there. Pushing up a ramp into disruptors is just never going to happen, and he was forced to push up the ramp because that's where his base was. That's what he had to try and defend. The other option was to go for a base trade instead, and it looks like TriGGeR just wasn't feeling a base trade. He wasn't too confident in it. I don't blame him. There are a lot of bases. There were a lot of bases to take and a lot of bases to try and kill if you're TriGGeR. So tries to take a fight. GG gets called, and now we are going to game number 3 to find out who takes the lead in this series. Who's going to be that much closer to qualifying, puppy? Oh, let's find out. And as we get ready for this, I'm going to need a moment. BRB, we're getting our lobby ready. Oh god, and here we go. We are back and spawning in the top right hand corner of Stargazer's ESL. We have the Canadian Protoss player himself still tied up, currently tied up here in this best of 5 series representing Team Super. It is TriGGeR. And spawning in the top left hand corner of Stargazer's ESL, we have the American Protoss player tying up that series 1-1 in that last game on a very curious map. We have representing Alpha X, it is Astrea. I had to quickly go and stretch. Oh god. I need to make sure I am energized and ready, and this is another one of those curious maps. For the second time in today's entire qualifier, we are here on Stargazers, and again, very unique, very curious, because we have pocket bases, but at the same time, the pocket bases are blocked by mineral patches. Really interesting to see that Astrea immediately starts mining out these patches, so he does intend to expand here. He does intend to take a little bit of a safer expansion. But immediately TriGGeR goes for a pylon block. I love it. So it's kind of a weird gate expand. Like despite throwing down the gateway here on the ramp, we do see that Astrea, yeah, he goes for a gate expand. Oh my god, it's crazy. A little bit inefficient, I would say, or a little bit awkward. Yeah, as TriGGeR throws down a pylon, he's going to be hyper aggressive. He's going to try and punish the greed here of Astrea as Stalkers are going to be going across the map. Very reminiscent to Waterfall. Very short rush distance by ground. But Waterfall was the Nexus first. This is a gate expand. So a couple of things are going on here. One, Astrea was banking up minerals to expand and take the pocket base. Because TriGGeR identified that very quickly because of the pylon block, Astrea had to spend his money, right? He had to do something with it. So he's forced to expand here on the low ground. Because of his opener though, this gateway, like his building positioning, was designed to protect his main and protect these two bases, not so much the southern natural. So because of that, he's a little bit vulnerable, and that is why TriGGeR throws down a gateway, because he knows how vulnerable this base is. He knows he can punish this expansion. And here we go, 2 Stalkers are coming across the map. 1 pylon does go down, but with the help of these 2 Stalkers and with the help of this second pylon, TriGGeR is going to be able to hold on. Or he should be able to. Ooh, but he's takes an extra shot on his Stalker. A little bit of mismicro here by TriGGeR. He has to be a little bit careful, but here we go. He does fight back. Warp Gate is still a ways off. We need Warp Gate sooner rather than later to really reinforce across the map. There we go. Another Stalker is coming. Another 2 Stalkers waddling across the map as well. And Astrea cancels his Nexus. Oh my god. This is getting wild. He didn't just cancel his Nexus, he went for a robo first. He went for a gate robo, very fast robo. Because of this, he's pumping out as many immortals as possible. He will be able to hold on to his ramp. And TriGGeR has to make a choice. There we go, he expands behind this. He doesn't have to force the issue. He doesn't have to try and break the main base. We all know that he isn't going to. With an immortal, with a shield battery, Astrea is perfectly fine. And TriGGeR is content to contain his opponent because you know why? We have a pylon in the main. We have a pylon in the natural, sorry. Astrea is stuck on 1 base right now. Eventually he can expand and eventually he can take the pocket base, but we do see that TriGGeR has the base advantage. And I mean, what's Astrea going to do? Move out with his army? God, no. Meanwhile, the wall is not a wall. Two adepts almost sneak on in as well. Astrea has to be so careful with that. Immediately, he does bring a probe over. He does fully wall off. He doesn't want the adepts to get into his main. Meanwhile, across the map, very important to take note that Astrea does have a proxy pylon. Ooh, and TriGGeR hasn't seen it. This is dangerous. So Astrea is breaking free. He's going to be able to focus down this pylon and shut down some of the production here of TriGGeR. We do see that the adepts continue to be a little bit annoying, going to try and sneak on in, but the adepts do not commit to the shade. And Astrea can be a little bit cheeky here. So obviously TriGGeR is going to have the economic advantage for quite some time. But if TriGGeR doesn't scout this, he's checking his main. He's checking, I keep saying main. He's checking his pocket base, and the pocket is the most obvious place for a proxy. There we go. He's looking for a pylon right now. He's like, okay, I have to make sure that nothing cheeky is going on in my base. And okay, he checks his main. He sees, he confirms he will get a kill in this pylon. I was going to say that if Astrea wanted to, he could try and warp in a couple of adepts in the main base of TriGGeR and just wreak havoc in the mineral line. But TriGGeR does defend in the end. We do see a recoil force as well. The adepts do make their way in. Astrea slipping up a little bit here in the control in his wall. And now TriGGeR, he's got a lot of potential to deal some of that economic damage. Zero mining right now happening in the natural base of Astrea. TriGGeR already getting 2 probe kills. We're gonna get a little bit more at the same time. 2 adepts also get into the main base of TriGGeR. Both players slipping up. Both players slipping up when it comes to their walls, and they will both be losing workers for it. At the same time, Oracle comes across the map. Unfortunately, TriGGeR a little bit too soon. Not too many workers to kill here at the natural base of Astrea. And now things are calming down. TriGGeR overreacting a little bit here, throwing down 2 shield batteries in case the Immortals pushed out across the map. But now both players have their expansions. We do see that, Robo and his Fire Council being thrown out here for TriGGeR, so he wants to catch up. He wants to catch up in Blink. He wants to catch up in his detection as well. Yeah, we're in an interesting place. I think I want to give the edge to Astrea right now, because look at his Blink timing, as well as like his Immortals as well. Like, he can, there's a period here where he can try and push in if he wanted to, and maybe even break TriGGeR. I say maybe, to be fair, because TriGGeR has 2 shield batteries and a stasis trap. I think he should be fine anyway. So things are gonna normalize, things are gonna stabilize. Oh boy, here we go. As Astrea is expanding, taking a 3rd base behind this. Papi Smurge. Hello, Jadoff. I see people catching up in the chat as well. This is a Blink Stalker map. It is, because, fun fact, if you have high ground here, if you control the tower, you can blink up in towards the natural base. Like, Blink can do so well here to sneak in behind into those pocket bases. And TriGGeR is aware of that, so he does have a stasis trap covering his back door. Oh boy, so Astrea has to be careful with his army movement. He does have detection here, so if he goes closer, he should see the stasis trap. Like, he's well aware, it's not going to be that easy. He does blink up into the main. At pocket, I keep saying it main. I keep calling it main. God damn it. And the stasis trap is not going to be enough. It is going to get focused down. Oh, never mind. He leaves it alone. Oh, doesn't want to get caught out. Doesn't want to lose too much. As now TriGGeR himself is going for his own 3rd. Much later, though, in comparison to that of Astrea. TriGGeR, though, catching up with his own Blink. Blink is about to finish up. Once again, though, +1 on the way for Astrea. Just like the previous game, he is so on top of his upgrades. Of course, it's going to take a while for that to really kick in. Temple Archives on the way as well, so we can go into those Archons. Blink Stalker is going to be a little bit aggressive here at the 3rd base. They pick up a pylon, force a little bit of a response here, but not dealing too much damage. But TriGGeR is still far behind in those workers, far behind with the 3rd base timing. He's trying to take a fight though. Emphasis on trying. Almost gets a probe. Almost gets a Stalker. See him pushing out and being active. Astrea behind this, taking a 4th base. Ugh, he's just up on bases, up on economy, up on everything. Everything except for, I guess, the Stalker count. But oh, 2 more Adepts sneak into the main. How does this keep happening? Not like this. The Adepts get cleaned up, but 5 more probes goes out. For his TriGGeR, he can't afford to lose these workers. He's basically all in at this point. He has the Stalker lead. He has the Immortal. He has the Void Ray. He has to end the game. Here we go. He dies on the shield battery immediately. Overcharge gets wasted on it. Oh, no more shield batteries available here for Astrea. Can TriGGeR do it? Can he break through? So far, the target fire is half decent. He's already taken down one of the Archons. There's only one Archon left. TriGGeR does end up losing his own Void Ray and Immortal, though. He's only working with pure Blink Stalkers. Boys are being forced off the line. Astrea knows that all he has to do is defend. He knows how all-in TriGGeR is. But we see the blink go forward. Prism goes down, and now TriGGeR cannot reinforce across the map. This is all he has to work with, and it is not going to be enough. He was all in. And it just isn't gonna work. Is he gonna try and transition from here? Like, he did kind of even up the worker count, but he's still down in bases. He's still down in tech. Astrea has a War Prism here in the main base. More Adepts coming in. TriGGeR, no, he can't afford to lose more probes. Don't do this, Papi. Astrea's stuck between a rock and a hard place right now. Especially because he just lost his high-tech units, the Void Rays and the Immortals and the Prisms. Everything, mate, everything. And he's gonna lose even more here as the Adepts do get into that main. Meanwhile, TriGGeR trying to dance with the main army, but Astrea has eyes on this. He has observers all over the place. And TriGGeR just can't keep up. He's trying, don't get me wrong. But the deficit, it feels like it's a little bit too much. Again, TriGGeR never invested in the Forge. He never invested in upgrades. Like, the longer this goes on, the better it is for Astrea. We have +2 on the way, more Immortals as well. He's got his 4th up and running. It's crazy. But you know what? At the end of the day, Blink Stalkers always have micro potential. But oh my god, the flanking Zealots coming from behind. Astrea dives on top of this army, and now he can just keep on going. Do have a couple of reinforcements coming in for TriGGeR, and that's going to keep him alive a little bit longer. But again, he's really struggling to hold a candle here to Astrea. He believes though. Forge is on the way. He's like, you know what? I'm down to upgrades. Let's just catch up. Let's just do it. Chrono is a thing, right? That'll get me back into this. I do like this though. He needs to do something different to get into this, and blinking into the natural, it's a start. Oh, he blinks on in, doesn't lose anything, gets 2 probes, get a pylon. Again, TriGGeR is being forced to be this aggressive, like, because of how much he lost earlier. Is the comeback real? Are we on copium right now? He's up against Protoss though, that's the thing. He sacrifices all of these Stalkers at the same time. We see a mass blink into the pocket base. We see a recall to meet him from Astrea. We'll lose 1 Immortal in the process, but only a single Immortal will protect the rest of this base. TriGGeR is still trying to hold on. As we see a recall, another Zealot warping into the main. It's just not meant to be. Astrea, at this point, he's maxed out, and as much as I love TriGGeR and as much as I want to believe that he can somehow bring this game back, it's not possible without a comeback unit. Whether it's DTs, whether it's disruptors, something a little bit more explosive, more so than Blink Stalkers. It's just not meant to be. Just not meant to be. Not this game, at least. Not this game. Now, maybe TriGGeR, he's also like trying to think about how to approach the next game. He's even, you know, focusing on his micro, maybe trying to get a bit of a mental win here, trying to trade as best he can, knowing that he fought as hard as possible until the very end. But there's only so much you can do against all of these charge-ups. We see the aggressive blink forward here from Astrea, the Immortal. The Archon's doing so much from the back line. GG gets called. And Astrea takes the lead in this series 2-1. Oof. GG. Well played. As a reminder though, this is still a best of 5, so we have the opportunity to tie ourselves up here 2-2. TriGGeR can bring it back, or this next game could be the final game of the series of the qualifier. We'll see, we'll see. We are getting close. And looks like the map is going to be one of the larger maps, Cosmic Sapphire. Now, the real question is, that I pose to the people in the chat, is Astrea going to take the gold again? Is he going to take the gold and go 4 gate again? Because I want him to. I want him to. Look, hey, if you're going to qualify for North America, what better way to do it with some nice North American cheese, you know? I say nice. I don't know if America has any. Is that, what is that, cheddar? What is that? I don't know. I don't know if America is really known for its cheese, but regardless, I do look forward to this. I do hope to see the gold come into play again. Should I whisper Astrea? Should I influence him in some way? Probably not. But regardless, I am excited to see how this story ends. As you can hear the beeps in the chat, we are loading on in. Also, I have to catch up in the chat. I have to catch up. Ah. Oh, Calibre was here as well. Nice, nice. All right, here we go. We are loading into potentially the final game of the qualifier of the tournament, but hopefully not, because this player here in the top left-hand corner of Cosmic Sapphire, ESL, is going to be fighting his heart out to bring it to the ace match. He is down 1-2 in this series, but he's not out. He's not out yet. Representing Team Super, it is TriGGeR. Oh, and spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Cosmic Sapphire ESL, we have the American Protoss player going for the low ground wall. We have, representing Alpha X, Astrea. Let's go! Let's go! Okay, wait. Okay. I was getting excited. I need to calm myself down. So a couple of things are happening here. This is what I wanted at a PvP. So this is a very unique map. Why? Not just because of the gold, which is here towards the bottom left, but because this entry into the natural is incredibly narrow. So because of that, I feel like it's safe for Protoss players to do this. Usually they only go for gate expands if they have a ramp to work with, because ramps are that much more defensible. I also wonder that because this choke is so narrow, the entry into the natural, that you can abuse that in some way and also go for natural expands, and that's what we do. We see the gate expand here from Astrea. And TriGGeR's probe is a little bit too late because it's not going across the map. Oh my god. There we go, TriGGeR going for a proxy here in the center of the map. I feel like it's a little bit too far away for a robo. So proxy Stargate is maybe what I'm feeling, or maybe a third gateway. But again, this is also a really far away reinforcement point. So Stargate is what we're going to be looking at. The Cybercore is soon to finish up. Oh, TriGGeR going to ramp up that aggression. Cybercore finishes, and we should be seeing that robo, not Stargate. Interesting. Astrea does scout and confirm the gold base. So the Cosmic Sapphire has a little bit of a winding path to get around. This robo is relatively far, but we'll see if a third gateway gets thrown down, and if this robo is only for a prism. I think it is only for a prism. We'll see. But yeah, I do appreciate this from TriGGeR, because again, he's being aggressive and he's looking to try and punish the greed of Astrea. We'll see if we can. Again, Astrea realizes what's going on. He's like, hold on, you haven't gone for an expansion. Your tech isn't thrown down either. Shield battery is on the way, and this is not for a prism first. This is for an immortal. Okay. Interesting. I wonder how I feel about this. So looking at the vision of Astrea, Astrea is scouring the edges of the map. So this is a really unorthodox location, and because of that, Astrea could think it's a Stargate. He could think it's a proxy Stargate, to be fair. So he may have to invest here in the middle of the map. But there we go. Astrea, he finally will find this. He does come across the Robo. He knows about the Immortal first. He knows that he just needs to defend his natural. That's all he has to do. And so he throws down the second shield battery. Oh boy, can TriGGeR break this? Can he do it? That's the question. The first Immortal is already here. Overcharge is popped though. Despite the overcharge, the shield battery is being focused on. Nice target fire there so far by TriGGeR. And he's breaking through. It's happening. The shield battery goes down as well. Boys are being forced off the line. The Immortal is doing so much damage to all of this stack defense. Meanwhile, across the map, we do see not too much is going on. There's only a probe. War Prism rocks up to keep everything alive, and TriGGeR is doing it. Oh god, the Immortal getting a little bit stuck there, but Stalker after Stalker getting focused down here by TriGGeR. Astrea lost 8 probes and he just doesn't have much else left here. The shield battery goes down once again. Boys are being pulled off the line. The Stalker was focused down by those boys, but GG gets called. And TriGGeR takes game number 4, and we have an ace match. Let's go. Oof. Again, we do see Astrea trying to be a little bit greedy. Not as greedy as game 1 on Waterfall, where he went for Nexus first. This was a Gate Nexus, a Gate Expand, and yeah, TriGGeR had just a great response to it. Again, it's part of this is because Astrea didn't know what he was up against. It took him a long time to scout the Robo, and a lot of that is because of the proxy location. I was afraid that it was too far away. I was afraid that it was going to be a little bit too far away and wasn't going to be able to really impact that timing on time, right? Because the Immortal had so much room to traverse. But no, it was worth it in the end. Astrea, he was caught between whether it was a Stargate or a Gateway or a Robo or anything. Oof. GG. Oh right, ESL Open Cup Asia's today. I forgot. I forgot. Oh my god. We're not going to be casting ESL Open Cup Asia today. We're not doing 3 tournament casts. We did 2 yesterday. We'll do 2 today. We're not doing Asia. It's been a couple of weeks since we've casted ESL Open Cup Asia, but our priority is TSL. That's where our priorities lie. God, I'm falling apart. I really need a nap. But before that happens, here we go. We are diving into the ace match and spawning in the top left-hand corner of Moondance ESL, another one of those quirky maps. We have the Canadian Protoss representing Team Super. It is TriGGeR. Oh my god, massive shout out to Onside Gaming because they just tipped 20 USD. Thank you so much. I say they just tipped, it was like an hour ago, but thank you so much as I missed that earlier. Meanwhile, spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Moondance ESL, we have the American Protoss representing Alpha X. It is Astrea. Thank you, Onside Gaming. I think that was when we were casting Neeb, to be fair. Oh. Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Oh. TriGGeR's up against Firefly in EPT Korea. TriGGeR trying to play in all the tournaments, but this did go to the ace match. Feels bad, man. Feels bad. But I mean, TSL obviously does take priority. Shout out to iScar in the chat, the lovely ESL admin and TSL admin, to be fair. Oh, but here we go. So far we see double gate openings here for both of our players. Astrea looking for these proxies. We have seen that TriGGeR has been a little bit more aggressive this series, and again, something a little bit different about Moondance is that we do have our pocket base here. Once again, very different to Stargazer. Astrea throwing down a proxy pylon. Interesting. But it looks to be just a pylon just to throw his opponent off. TriGGeR goes into the main base. He scouts. He confirms, okay, I see you've got 1 pylon. Where's your second pylon? It should be somewhere, and it's not here. Where is it? Obviously, we can see that it's a fake out, but TriGGeR doesn't know that yet. Meanwhile, Astrea changing his mind there, initially going for double Stalker, now going for Stalker Sentry instead. Going to be a little bit more focused on scouting. And once the Sentry has been revealed, TriGGeR is going to know, okay, everything is fine. Like, there shouldn't really be too much aggression coming out here. You're more concerned with scouting than you are with being aggressive with Stalkers. As TriGGeR, off of one base, opens up with a Robo, but so does Astrea. Oh my god. Both players looking to be hyper aggressive. Both players looking to pump out Immortals similarly to the last game. But Astrea going to be a little bit more aggressive with these Adepts. Going to be having the option to sneak out across the map and slip past enemy lines to get into that mineral line. Oh boy, we'll see if he can do so. And again, we'll see if we'll see how aggressive they're going to be with these Robos. Obviously, it means Immortal production. It also means that if a player wants to throw down a third gateway, they can be aggressive with pure gateway units and a War Prism. Very similar to that proxy game. There we go. Immortal production has commenced. God, great minds think alike. Alright. Here we go. So far, the defenses for TriGGeR are looking pretty good. His Nexus is a little bit faster compared to his opponents, but oh boy, here we go. Do have a couple of Adepts ready to go in whenever they see an opportunity to do so. We do see Astrea with the Hallucinated Scout confirm the Robo opening from TriGGeR. He knows about the Immortals. Meanwhile, TriGGeR is still in the dark. He still needs to go for a scout of his own, so his own hallucination is now on the way. True. Kind of. I see me and Micah being like, we don't want to rush TriGGeR, right? And I agree. I mean, I do think that TriGGeR, again, he has his priorities straight. Like TSL, like he is so close to qualifying. It is a major tournament compared to a weekly. But here we go. Astrea already in the main base here with his War Prism, with a couple of Adepts. 3 probes go down, and he keeps both Adepts alive. Because of this, he could always dip back in, but he has to be careful because of these Stalkers. What's interesting though is that neither player has a Twilight Council, so neither player has to really worry about the mobility of Blink Stalkers because these are vanilla Stalkers. Meanwhile, the Adepts try to shade in towards the natural base. They can maybe find some damage here. They do commit to the shade, and they do get 1 probe, 2, almost 3. As we do see Astrea trying to find a little bit more damage, trying to sneak on into the main base. At the moment, he doesn't. Oh my god, he does find a little bit more damage, gets another probe. TriGGeR bleeding out a little bit much here, but he has the chance to make up for it because he has his own Adepts across the map, and it looks like he could have gone into the main, but he goes towards the natural instead. Just keeping Astrea on notice. Oh boy. And here we go. Again, we do see that TriGGeR is looking to make up for his lack of mobility, going for his own Blink Stalkers, but Astrea is doubling down instead. He's been making nothing but army. 3 Immortals are coming across the map. That's a lot of Immortals, and TriGGeR is being a little bit too greedy. This third base is never going to finish. It's not about the third though, because Astrea, I'm sure, wants to push on in and break the natural. Third immediately gets cancelled, and again, Astrea, he's not stopping. He can go into the main. Up. Okay, he only goes into the main with a couple of Adepts. He's going to pull TriGGeR's army apart. The main army is still looking to push on forward. We do have 1 shield battery. We do have an overcharge available, but the Immortal gets caught out, and there's no way to save it. The Immortal of TriGGeR immediately goes down again. He doesn't have a War Prism. He cannot micro. He cannot save his units the same way that Astrea can. And just like that, the pylon falls as well. Astrea with a lot of momentum, with a massive supply lead. Overcharge is popped, and that's definitely going to help out a little bit. And Astrea is going to respect that. But again, it's only buying a couple of seconds here, and it doesn't protect the mineral line. Not like this, puppy. Not like this. One more Immortal does come down from the main base, and that is definitely going to help in the defense. We do see Astrea trying to focus it down. In the end, isn't able to get it. But now he has taken the worker lead. He still has all 3 Immortals alive and well. And he just picks up and goes into the main. Has to be careful. Blink is now done. And it looks like the aggression has subsided for now. We see a recall to go back home. The War Prism will get focused down, but at least the Immortals do survive. Both Immortals do end up walking away. A little bit of a missed rally. Astrea throws away another one of his Immortals. Oof. Okay, so a little bit of a back and forth, but again, of course, we have to take note. We have to point out the obvious, and that is that TriGGeR lost a lot of workers. He's essentially forced all in. He's down almost 20 probes compared to Astrea. Astrea getting his own third base up and running. The pocket base much safer to expand to as well. And with 3 defensive Immortals, TriGGeR knows he cannot break him. The hopes and dreams for TriGGeR do lie in these adepts. He's going to try and shade on in. With these shield batteries though, and with this army, I don't know if it's really too wise to commit to the shade. He will though. He will get 1 probe. Could get a second here. Could get even more as it goes all the way into the 3rd. And honestly, this is some really nice damage at the same time. Oh, okay. I was like, is the main army being pulled back? No, it is not. The Immortals are still here in position, protecting the natural base. Astrea was ready for TriGGeR. Swats him away. TriGGeR does get 6 probes, which is good, don't get me wrong. Oh, slowly evening up the worker count. Meanwhile, across the map, a couple more adepts do slip on in, reciprocating that damage as well, keeping TriGGeR at less than or at more than 10 worker deficit. But you know what? Now it's time for TriGGeR to bounce around with his own Immortals. Finally, he is the one with the War Prism. He's going to be able to focus down this pylon. What of us? Oh, God. Almost gets the pylon. Almost delays +1. 1 shot away, puppy. 1 shot away. TriGGeR is forced to pick up, and this is the kind of the tale of the PvPs of Astrea, I feel, where it's really interesting to see how quick he is to get these upgrades up and running. There was an opportunity there to maybe delay +1, but +1 is done. Now we have 2-2 on the way. We have Twilight Council as well. Sorry, Templar Archives for those Archons. Like, the tech and the macro from Astrea is just always just incredibly solid. It's TriGGeR's aggression that usually gets him by here, but at the moment he's really struggling. My God, we do see TriGGeR. He backs off in the end, forced to take the pocket base. Again, you know, catching up in the workers, catching up as best he can. We do have a War Prism looking to maybe sneak into the main base of TriGGeR though, so he has to be a little bit careful. Do see a recall to come all the way back home. And now we're going into a little bit of a lull here, where Astrea is still maintaining his lead by taking his 4th base and expanding, and again, just being on top of his upgrades. I think what's another thing that's really crazy to think about is the fact that Astrea has been able to do all of this without Blink. Blink is only just now halfway done. One of the upgrades that is so prioritized by players in PvP, by Protoss players in PvP, is kind of falling to the wayside here for Astrea, and I mean, he is getting it eventually. But yeah, it's just, I find it really impressive that he was able to do so much without it. I guess you could argue that he kind of had it with his War Prism. Meanwhile, speaking of War Prism, we do see a couple of Zealots warped in here across the map. I believe Charge is done. Yes, Charge is done as well, so we can slip one in and maybe get some probe kills. Astrea pushing out once again. +2 is done. We have a double upgrade lead here. Oh my God. And Blink should finish up by the time the army does hit that 3rd base. The army has been spotted by the Haluk. TriGGeR can now respond, but at the same time, War Prism slips into the main base. And where is the warp in? There it is. TriGGeR, is he going to be okay? Can he hold on to his 4th base? The Zealots are getting a little bit out of control. Not going to lie, the pylon goes down. Honestly, Astrea doesn't have to force the issue. He doesn't have to take the fight if he doesn't want to, but he does shave off more of these Zealots, sorry. Stalkers will eventually, oh my, what? Stalkers will eventually shut down the prison, but the Zealots actually got a kill on the Forge. TriGGeR is gonna be stuck on 0-0 for a long time. +3 is on the way. There's no way he's gonna be at a 3 upgrade deficit. Absolutely insane. I can't believe the Zealots were able to get a kill on that. I guess +2 Zealots do hit a little bit different. They're built a little bit different. Speaking of, they even pull apart the army a little bit, going all the way in behind the base towards that pocket. Despite having a massive army lead, it looks like Astrea doesn't want to overextend, even though he's been able to get a couple of probe kills here, one after another. He's working on towards a second robo. He's working towards a robotics bay. It looks like he wants to round out his army with what he's missing, and that is disruptors. There we have it. 2 disruptors are now on the way. There is no real answer to them. Unfortunately, the army of TriGGeR isn't too stalker heavy, so his ability to blink and avoid purification of it isn't really there. Zealots and Archons, they have a hard time dealing with that. Meanwhile, he's so far ahead, why not just get War Prison speed? We have a Dark Shrine on the way as well. Like, Astrea's gotten to the point where he can just spend his money on whatever he wants, as he is maxed. Or close to getting maxed. And now, finally, now that he has his disruptors, he's going to be moving out across the map. Like, coincidentally, this is also actually lined up with +3. It's really impressive to see how Astrea, he hit a timing with +2 and with +3, and I think even with +1 as well. Yeah, he's just so aware of what his upgrades are looking like, and already the first never goes, oh my god! Does connect with the juicy center of the army. Will lose his second disruptor though before the shot goes off, but with these Immortals, with these Archons, it looks like he can push on through anyway. 3 Archons aren't really doing too much in the backline here for Astrea, but the numbers are just too great. We have another disruptor, the Nova. Ooh, doesn't go off yet, but there we go. Does finally go off, does connect. Does not connect with the Archons. Hot pick up there from TriGGeR. But there's only so much he can do from behind. GG gets called, and Astrea will take the series 3-2 and qualify for TeamLiquid StarLeague number 9. GG, well played. What a PvP, what a showing between these two players. Again, it was very fun. There was like a lot going on when it came to greed from some players and aggression from other players as well. We got to see some unique aspects to the maps. Yeah, it was really cool to see this play out in the end, and I hope everyone enjoyed themselves. Massive shout out to Astrea, because he will be joining Neeb in TeamLiquid StarLeague number 9. For those wondering, it is an event that is going to be playing out, I believe, next month. But the playoff portion, or like the top 8 portion of the tournament, is going to be played is going to be played offline. Is going to be live in person from a studio with a production team and everything. I don't know if it's going to be open to the public. That is yet to be announced. I don't know if they've confirmed whether you can or you can't. That's the one thing I'm worried about. I don't know if there can be a crowd, but the event itself will be offline. It will be in person, and yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun, and both Astrea and Neeb are gonna make it fun. My condolences to TriGGeR. He did really well making it all the way to the ace match and going all the way to game number 5. I'm very proud of TriGGeR, but he just barely didn't make the cut. Barely didn't make it. But I still look forward to casting more of TriGGeR, because TriGGeR has been on the rise for the past 2 years. He's been doing really well for himself. And we can see here, like, he is kind of solidifying himself as one of the best in North America, and he's looking to break into that top 3, looking to break into Astrea, Scarlet, and Neeb. I think we can all agree that those 3 players are still the best 3 players in all of North America, but TriGGeR wants to break into that, and he is so close. Oh, so close. Ugh. We'll see if he can get there in the end. Meanwhile, thank you so much everyone for watching. Thank you so much everyone for tuning in. Massive shout out to Zombie Grub for the raid as well. Much love. Yeah, to our fellow casters here, as I quickly pay out those predictions. Was Astrea. If you are interested in our next broadcast, that is going to be in 4 hours. Actually, 3 hours and 40 minutes. God, it's don't have a lot of time to rest. I may have a nap. I'm definitely going to get some food. I am starving, and I'm going to be returning here with the Taiwan Hong Kong qualifiers for TSL. So if you're interested in that region, or if you just want to tune into some more casting from the CranKy Ducklings, then be here in 3.5 hours. We got you covered with Taiwan Hong Kong. Players like Haas, Nice, Rex, But Always, Nazin, Expect, Go Joey, Beefstroke, Eternity. Plenty of high quality, amazing players are going to be there, and we will provide you as much coverage as we can. I don't know if Rotterdam's going to be there. I know it's really late, and I know he's going to go to bed. We will be there at least to provide as much English coverage as we can. And hopefully there'll be some other English streamers as well. It's up to them if they want to be there. We'll see. But with that, thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Massive shout out to everyone. I see Mio Micah in the chat. Congratulations from yesterday as well, Mio Micah. He did qualify through the Oceania qualifiers for TSL, so he's probably just checking out some of his competition that he's going to be facing in TSL. Yeah, you did well for yourself. You did really well, and I hope to see more of you soon here. Meanwhile, if you want to tune into more of myself, I do I do stream throughout the week. I didn't stream yesterday just because we've been busy casting, and I'm not going to stream today either just because we're also busy casting. But I'm usually live over at light_VIP on Twitch. I do stream throughout the week. It's just some ladder sessions. We like to have fun. We like to enjoy ourselves, and die horribly to Protoss. GG. So if you're interested in that, you can check me out there. Otherwise, if you're only interested in our casting, then check us out here on the CranKy Ducklings. We are live every single day of the week with multiple broadcasts, with multiple tournaments, with multiple qualifiers. Our next cast is going to be, again, in 3.5 hours with Taiwan Hong Kong. Tomorrow, in less than 24 hours, we're going to be casting the Latin American qualifier for TSL. I'm going to be casting that with Darking. And even before that happens, we're going to be casting the TriGGeR finals. That is a team league that the CranKy Ducklings are playing in. So if you want to tune in, we beat Sidestorm Gaming last week. Humble brag. we did pretty well. We beat Sidestorm Gaming. We are up against E-Punks tomorrow. So yes, this is a team league where we're up against teams like Team Super that you saw here. We're up against teams like Sidestorm Gaming, License to Kill, Platinum Heroes. We're all competing in this team league. So if you want to cheer for the Ducklings, cheer for Vindicta, Starduck, Ryu, Eric, they're all gonna be fighting their hearts out there in that team league match. That is going to be at 4 a.m. AEST. Sorry, 5 a.m. AEST. Very early in the morning. So yes, I will be live there to cast that, and I might drag on like Vindicta or someone to cast with me, just because it's a little bit more chill and laid back. It's a team league match, so we're a little bit more biased towards our own players. Speaking of, any money that we do make here on Twitch or on Patreon, we do have a Patreon, it all goes towards our team. It's how we can salary our players. It goes towards our tournaments that we run as well. We do run weekly tournaments that obviously has a prize pool, and our goal is to eventually grow them and expand, and again, you know, spread the love and incentivize more players in competing. But yeah, !socials in the chat if you want to find our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. All of our VODs are uploaded to YouTube, and we have our Discord server as well. So it's all there, all available to you in the chat. And thank you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope everyone enjoyed themselves. We had a great qualifier here. A rocky start. For those who weren't here in the beginning, I did disconnect at the beginning, and certain things weren't set up, and we were missing games, and it was a rocky start to the broadcast, but a strong finish. Again, massive shout out to Zombie Grub who did raid us. And speaking of raid, we are going to be raiding another StarCraft 2 stream. I'm not too sure who. Asher, bro. Asher. Speaking of stream, who is streaming right now? Who can we raid? It's gotta be Nish. He's there with his Platinum League. Much love. You know who's streaming right now? The StarCraft Observer. If you're not familiar with him, he does a lot of TikTok videos and a lot of videos on Twitter as well. He's a great guy. He's just a swell guy, and he's also a fan of the channel as well. So give him some love, give him some support. We're going to give him a cheeky raid. And until then, I'll see you guys next time. Ciao. Ciao, ciao, ciao. Bye.